Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing something a little different. We're going to go behind the curtain and see how the pros, financial analysts, actually break down a company to figure out where it's headed. I mean, when you're looking at a huge global tech company, you could just, take a wild guess at what's next. Or you can do what the experts do. Follow the data, decode the strategy, and build a forecast that's actually based on evidence. So we got our hands on a fantastic report. It's a preview for the second quarter of 2025 on Xiaomi, straight from the research analysts at Citi. We're going to use it to see exactly how they tackle a complex, sprawling company like this, one piece at a time. And right off the bat, here's their final conclusion, a buy rating. But a rating like that, it's just the headline. The real story, the part that actually helps us understand what's going on, is the journey. It's the analysis that got them there. So let's trace their steps, shall we? Okay, so first things first. To really get Xiaomi, you have to understand it's not just a phone company anymore. Not by a long shot. It's now this powerhouse made up of several very different businesses, and each one tells its own unique story. This revenue mix right here is the key to understanding the modern Xiaomi. Sure, smartphones are still the biggest slice of the pie at 41%, but look at what's happening around it. The IoT and lifestyle division and their brand new smart EV business, they now make up over half of the company's revenue. This strategic shift is the whole ballgame. Now, before we dive any deeper, let's just make sure we're all on the same page with one key term: gross margin. It's really simple. It's the direct profit a company makes on each individual thing it sells before you factor in other costs like marketing or R&D. It's a raw, powerful measure of profitability, and believe me, analysts watch it like a hawk. All right, with that in our back pocket, let's dig into that first big piece of the puzzle: the smartphone business. The Citi report zeroes in on a real point of tension here. On the one hand, Xiaomi is shipping a steady number of phones, which is great. But on the other hand, the actual profit they make from that core business, well, it's getting squeezed. So what's causing that squeeze? You might think it's because they're selling fewer phones, but that's not it. The data actually points to something else entirely. It's all about where they're selling them. And here's the problem in a nutshell. In just a single quarter, the share of phones they sold in the higher-priced Chinese market dropped quite a bit. At the same time, their sales in emerging markets where phones sell for less went up. So while more sales usually sounds good, when it comes to profitability, geography is everything. And what's the direct result of that shift in geography? The average selling price, or ASP, for their smartphones fell by 10%. A 10% drop. And when your average price falls, that gross margin we just talked about gets squeezed right along with it. But hold on, that's only one side of the coin. Because while the smartphone business is dealing with those pressures, other parts of the company are absolutely firing on all cylinders, creating some serious momentum. Just take their Internet of Things, or IoT division. We're talking everything from smart TVs to air purifiers. The analysts estimate this segment just exploded with 35% year-over-year growth. It's become an absolute engine for the company. But really, the venture that has everybody's attention is Xiaomi's incredibly bold move into the electric vehicle market with their SU7 sedan. I mean, talk about competitive. This is the company's biggest and riskiest bet yet. And this is exactly where a lot of that analyst optimism is coming from. The report estimates that as Xiaomi makes more and more of these cars, the gross margin they make on each vehicle is actually going up. For a brand new car company, showing that you can get more efficient as you grow, that is a massive, critically important signal to the market. So now we have the full picture, right? You've got a smartphone business with shrinking profits, but then you've got these booming IoT and EV businesses with growing profits. How in the world does an analyst take these opposing forces and come up with a single final verdict? Well, they use a really clever technique called a sum of the parts valuation. It's the perfect way to value a complex company like Xiaomi, because you're not just looking at it as one big blob. You analyze each part of the business on its own terms, and then you add them all up. The logic here is pretty straightforward. You just can't value a mature business like smartphones the same way you value a super high-growth startup like their EV division. It wouldn't make sense. So analysts put a separate value on each unit. Then they add those values together, throw in the cash the company has in the bank, and voila, you get a total value for the whole company, which they then translate into a target price for each share. And here is the result of that entire process. Just look at the value breakdown here. The old school smartphone business, it's valued at about $6.6 per share. But get this, the IoT and internet parts, they're worth more than 5 times that combined. It just goes to show you that the analysts believe the real future value is locked up in these new ventures. Add it all together, and that's how they land on that new, higher target price of 69 Hong Kong dollars. So it all comes down to this incredible balancing act. The bull case, that's the optimistic view, is that these new growth engines, the EVs and IoT, are going to fire up and more than make up for any weakness in phones. The bear case, the pessimistic view, is that brutal competition and rising costs could throw a wrench in the works. The job of the analyst is to weigh both of those futures. And all of this leaves us with one massive, lingering question. From software to phones to smart gadgets, and now to electric cars, Xiaomi has proven again and again that it can jump into and completely reshape entire industries. Seeing how the experts value the company today really makes you wonder, what on earth could possibly be next?